Mr. Smith and Chair Johns is going to be absent this morning, and I want to call this meeting to order. I'm going to be chair. Gentlemen, if you guys want to spread out a little bit, there's extra chairs down here. You guys can spread out, or if y'all want to be jumping up down there, you can. It's okay.
Be hugged up
And
there.
we have bathed on this end of the table, so we are practicing good personal hygiene if that's the problem. So,
We have standards on this end.
I understand, I get it. So if we don't mind, let's everybody stand real quick like, and we'll do the pledge of allegiance and an invocation. Mr. Charles, would you please lead us?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day, Lord. We thank you for all the rain you've provided here lately, restoring our water flows. Father, we praise you for all your love and your grace. Father, we ask your presence in this meeting to lead and guide in the decisions we make. I ask your blessing on this staff, this board, and everyone in attendance. See them home safely after the meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ms. Robin, can you do a roll call, please?
Sure. Chair Johns, Mr. Keith.
Here.
Mr. Schwab,
Here.
Mr. Smith, Mr. Sessions.
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Mr. Lloyd,
Here.
Mr. Wheeler.
Here.
We have it.
Thank you, Ms. Robin. I just want to remind everybody, especially those that aren't in attendance, and if they wanted to do so online, we have a YouTube link, which is www.youtube.com/@SRWMD, capital letters. And if you'll find us, if you want to watch us online, you're more than welcome to do that. We have a couple of, Robin, do we have any additions to our agenda?
We have two updates. Water Resources Agenda Item 11, public hearing for the approval of order number 26-004, modified Phase 2 water shortage. And the Business and Community Service section, Agenda Item 13, Ag Cost Share Task Work Assignment with Beaver Lake LLC, Madison and Suwannee counties.
Okay. So hearing that, can I get a motion to approve the agenda as updated?
So moved.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Is any discussion on the agenda? All in favor say aye. All opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. Thank you. We're going to move on now to public comment. And is Ms. Felicia Lamb in?
Yes,
I'm going to let ladies go first. Or do you want to comment on something specific? Is this general, or you have a specific item on the agenda?
it's about Shirley.
Okay, well, come on, and you're more than welcome to speak to that.
Okay, thank you. And good morning. We have observed and documented water discharge from the Tree Leaf property every single day, starting May 22nd through today. And last time I was here, I was asked to come back and let you know if it had ever stopped, and it did not. Erosion is significant and ongoing currently. We received less than 2 inches of rain on Sunday. And so far, it has extended the erosion scar, which never existed before a few years ago, by a length of about 30 feet, depth of 5 feet, and this is ridiculous for a summer storm. And this does not even address the flooding of the woodland downstream, which is hard to measure or describe to you. I know there is currently a revision to the ERP plans in review. However, I don't know that those plans do anything to address the volume of wastewater produced or the volume of wastewater that the sprinkler system can dispose of. I came over for this meeting to let you know that these problems are ongoing, with no discernible improvement since the complaint was first made in 2023. And I would even say that things may be just getting worse. So I think that it might be time for some heavy disciplinary action. And I thank you.
Thank you. Do you have an update on what we've been doing on that? Wasn't there some things going on? Didn't we have staff meet with them and And weren't they taking some corrective action? Don't they have a time frame to get that done, or what's going on?
Yes, sir, and I believe Leroy is prepared to, during his section, to update us on the
Okay.
True Leave project and where we're at with their compliance agreement, and also with review of their modification to their ERP permit. which
Okay, all right,
speaks to what
we'll
Ms.
we'll
Lamb
wait
has
for that.
referenced.
Please hang out where you can get that update, please. Thank you. Okay, next on the list is Mr. Moses.
Good morning, Moses Klepper. Well, last meeting I was at, I seemed like some of the statements I made made a couple individuals very defensive from the board, and I tried to process that, not every day since I've been here, but I tried to understand that, and I think part of it, understandably, the individuals I'm thinking of were probably embarrassed by their support of that Water First North Florida plan. And so I get that. None of us like to be duped into believing something that ain't so. So I just hope from this point forward that those that were in support of it, and I understand as of this morning that 40 million gallons a day is no longer available. Yay for the people, yay for our natural resources. And I also got educated. Every one of y'all should know more about all this than me. I'm a brand new guy here, but I dig when I find something. So I understand a similar process already going on in Lake City, but that's local contaminated water being recycled. The one thing that I haven't heard, and I've been beating this drum since I've been here, and discovered the shortage. I mean, we're on that, the phase 2 water shortage thing. Of course, we're still short. I'm hearing that some of the springs, not the one that I go to weekly, but I'm keeping reference in a scientific way. I went and marked a piece of lime rock so I could see the water flow out of Swanee. I go there weekly. So it's coming up. I heard that somewhere there's dirty water coming out of the springs. We got a clock right up here. So dirty water coming out of the springs, that's understandable when the water gets low. But I haven't heard, and I'm going to keep suggesting this, that y'all go to the land that we own, some of those old swamps, and dam them back up from when they were trenched and drained back in turn of the century to allow harvesting, dam those back up and increase the amount of water that's percolated and filtered through. And also, as far as the restrictions that have been attempted on my freedom of speech, I highly recommend, I've already recommended to the council that each one of y'all read Bill 1329, which will become law on January 1st. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moses. Any other public comment? Hearing none, we're going to close that out. We have a consent agenda, which is item number 5, and I trust our board here has read the agenda. Is there a motion to approve or?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mr. Keith.
Second it.
Thank you. Any comment on the consent agenda? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, the same like sign. Thank you. Number 7, we have items of general interest and information with cooperating agencies. Hugh, do we have anybody from cooperating agencies here today? Okay. Thank y'all for coming, appreciate that. Hydrologic conditions report. Mr. Robbie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of
Morning.
the board. I'd like to present the hydrologic conditions report for June 2026. My thanks this month goes out to Katie McBride. She sent me this great photo of the Alapaha Rise over in Hamilton County. She was out doing some site visits. And the thing to note about this is the darkness of the water coming out of it. That has to do a lot with the fact that South Georgia got quite a bit of rain within the past month or so in June. They got between 4 and 8 inches in spots. So we had the Withlacoochee and the Alapaha, which were pretty high, and the flows were high as well. But we'll see that in subsequent slides. But I just wanted to mention that. I thought it was a great photo because it's very relative to what we were seeing this past month in June. So my thanks goes to Katie, and I think it's a great way for us to start our hydro report for June 2026. All right, rainfall for June 2026. Unfortunately, we missed the mark. I only got 4.7 inches as a district-wide average. That's about 30% lower than that long-term average of 6.8 inches. We did increase our deficit from just under 18 inches at the end of May to 18.7 inches at the end of June due to moving that window of time forward in June of 2025, we got 5.4 inches of rain. We only replaced that calculation with 4.7 inches of rain in June 2026. Taking a look at the map, that 4 to 5 inch range does encompass the district-wide average for the month, but what we can see from this map is in the upper third of the district is where all the rainfall kind of fell this past month. Those lower amounts, the 3 to 4 inches in dark blue and then that less than 3 inches in light blue, we saw a lot of that in the lower 2/3 of the district. On the flip side, the 5 to 6 inch range in orange it is that first category just higher than the average, 6 to 7 inches in red, and we had some big spots of more than 7 inches of rainfall this past month for June. A little spot over here in Jefferson, but we had a huge spot over here covering Jefferson, Taylor, Madison, Hamilton counties. Even down into Lafayette as well. Union County and then Levy County all had some various spots of more than 7 inches of rainfall for June 2026, and that's in that pink color you see on the map. Our departure from normal precipitation, this is our past 30 days. This is from the 13th of June to the 12th of July. Kind of seeing a little bit of a mixed bag for our district. Over in the western part, we're seeing anywhere from breaking even to about 2 inches of rainfall surplus. A little spot over in Jefferson County is 2 to 4 inches of rainfall surplus. However, as we start to move east and down south in our district, we start seeing those rainfall deficits, anywhere from breaking even to 2 inches of rainfall deficit in yellow, 2 to 4 inches of rainfall deficit in orange, and then 4 to 6 inches in rainfall deficit in the southernmost part of our district in that darker orange color. This is our comparison of district-wide monthly rainfall. This is actually figure 1 in the report. I did want to show this again just to kind of keep the board abreast of what we're seeing as far as rainfall is concerned. The only spot that we had above or at or above the average rainfall, which was the dash line here, was May of 2026. Everything else has been well below average rainfall-wise. And I did want to point out, this is where we had the 5.4 inches of rain in June of 2025. We only replaced that with that 4.7 inches of rainfall in June of 2026. This is our monthly historical rainfall averages. We are entering, or we have just entered into the wetter time of year for our district. So we had 6.8 inches of rainfall on average for June. We didn't make that, unfortunately, but we're looking at about 7.7 inches for July and about the same for August. And then September, we actually do see a little higher amount too at 5.5 inches as a long-term average. And that's before we go into the fall and winter months where we have a little bit less rainfall. I wanted to mention that with this drought that we have right now, with the rainfall deficit of 18 plus inches, we've gotten just over an inch of rainfall district-wide average as of this past weekend. We're going to need, by the end of July, if we are to break even, we need over 25 inches of rain just to make up for that deficit, and then also this upcoming 7.7 inches of rainfall on average that we're supposed to get. All right, stream flow conditions for June 2026. As I mentioned in the very first slide, the upper part of our district and then the lower Georgia, we're seeing some really high flows. We had above normal, 75th to 90th, a lot of these, and then we had some highs greater than 90th percentile, and that did bleed down into our district, the Withlacoochee at Panetta, and then Alapaha at Jennings. This actually did move down into the Suwannee. We saw some improvements here at Ellaville, and then also an improvement here at Branford, and then a little bit of an improvement here at Rock Bluff. That one actually went from much below normal to a below normal, but still an improvement nonetheless. Looking over at the coastal rivers, Alcilla, Lamont, and Econfina both actually did jump up in the normal range by the end of the month. But however, Finn Holloway and Steinhatchee did fall into the below normal from the normal range at the end of the month. Looking over at the Santa Fe Basin, unfortunately, those over there ended the June with much below normal, that less than 10th percentile. Fort White kind of stayed the course the whole month, that much below normal to begin and end the month. Whereas Graham and Worthington fell from the normal range to that much below normal. New River actually saw just a one category degradation going from normal range to below normal at the end of the month. This is our upper Florida aquifer levels. This is May 2026. I wanted to show this to compare with what we're seeing in June. We were starting to see increased areas of below 10th percentile well levels across our district, and that's on top of the 10th to 25th percentile we see in orange. I wanted to mention that 54 wells in May were actually below the 10th percentile, and 22 of those wells were below the 5th percentile. As we move forward in time, I'd like to point out we did have a little bit of improvement up here due to some increased rains. Hamilton County and into Madison County, we saw a few more wells here that were actually in the 25th to 75th percentile range. However, down south, the southern part of our district, we did see some degradation down into the below 10th percentile, a lot more red at the bottom of that. And I did want to mention here, we had 56 wells that were below 10th percentile, with 24 of those below the 5th percentile for the end of June. This is where it all started. This is what we saw a year ago, just to kind of give you some reference, just to kind of look how different the map was back in June of 2025. We were starting to see some degradation here down in the southern part of our district with the 10th to 25th percentile, and then we had some wells below that 10th percentile. So this is kind of where it all started for us, going up into the, leading up to the drought that we're currently experiencing. All right, this is our district-wide upper Florida and aquifer conditions. This is from 2000 to 2026. I wanted to point out, as of this past Saturday, we're about the 12th percentile, 11.8%. We've been kind of dancing around that 10th to 11th to 12th percentile for quite a while now. But as of this past Saturday, we're at 11.8%, which does put us well below where we were back during the last dry time we had right before Hurricane Irma. This was 27.2%. However, not quite as low as we had in 2012 when we were down to the 1% in May. And June of 2002, we were down to the 2%. So we're hanging in there around that 10th percentile, not quite as low as we were historically. All right, these next three slides I wanted to show are some long-term wells that we have in the district. This first one is DOT Lake City. This is the continuous data in blue, and then the black is the manual readings that we have. So this one actually has a record that goes back to 1942, but I believe we didn't start collecting until about 48. That's the oldest point we have is 1942. But once we are 40.03, or about right at 40 feet, is the lowest that we have on record for this, and that's May 25th of 2012. This one's currently sitting at about 44.5 feet, so it's about 4 feet higher than it was at that time. That puts it about the 11th percentile for this well. This next one I wanted to show is USGS Newberry. This was 1958, so not quite as long of a record here. Once again, the continuous data is in blue and the black data is the manual readings. This one had a historic low of 33.6 feet. That was from June 22nd of 2012. Currently, we're sitting at Newberry at 36.9 feet, so about 3 feet roughly higher than we were in that long-term low back in 2012. And I added this one. This is Cross City. This same thing here. Blue is the continuous data. Black is the manual readings. This one actually had an all-time low in 2000, not 2012. 2012 was close, but it was only within a few tenths of a foot higher than 2000. So this was 28.4 feet. And if you'll notice on here, this is actually down reading at about 29.2 feet. So we're just about a foot higher than we were back in that 2000 mark. That puts that less than the 1 percentile, so it's about 0.6% on that Cross City well. So it's getting pretty low in Cross City. All right, U.S. Drought Monitor. This was released July 9th, this past Thursday. This is the newest one we've got. In our district, we've got 3 different categories. We've got moderate drought, severe drought, or extreme drought, just kind of depending on where you are. The northern and western parts of our district seeing that moderate drought. The central part of our district is more in that severe drought, but as you head south, we're seeing more extreme drought. They did remove the exceptional drought that had been in the U.S. Drought Monitor for quite a while in our district, but we have gotten just enough rainfall to improve conditions where they have taken that exceptional drought out, and a lot of that got replaced with the extreme drought, so more or less a one-category improvement for us. I did want to mention, too, that we are under an El Nino advisory. That El Nino is expected to continue and strengthen by the end of this year. Probably going to see the highest or strongest signal for that sometime this winter. That's expected to continue through the spring 2027. I think we get about a 97% chance of that happening. So that El Nino is going to strengthen, and it's going to continue along with us into at least spring of 2027 at this point. With that said, though, National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration's seasonal outlook for July through September has us with equal chances of above, near, or below normal rainfall probabilities. And that's probably due to the uncertainties about how strong this El Nino is going to get. There's been talk that it could be a super El Nino, which could be one of the strongest ones on record. I'm just assuming that their models probably are having a hard time predicting. So right now, we're just under equal chances for the next 3 months, for July through September. However, it does have us with 40 to 50% chance leaning above normal temperatures for July through September as well. That's for most of the state of Florida, even up into South Georgia as well. All right, let's talk a little bit about Atlantic hurricane season. We can go ahead and mark off Arthur. That one was formed on the 17th of June. It was over in Texas and kind of floated over a little bit. We got some of the outer bands of that, I believe, in our area, which was very helpful. It was good to get some of that rain. But the next one on the list is Bertha. That would be the next one named once that one actually forms in the either the Atlantic or the Gulf. Looking at the hurricane season outlooks, they are still predicting 8 to 14 named storms, 3 to 6 hurricanes, and 1 to 3 major hurricanes. That gives us about a 55% chance of below normal hurricane season for 2026. I did want to mention, too, this is worth mentioning just about how the uncertainties are with this El Nino. Colorado State University originally predicted in April 13 named storms. They just came out with an amended report. Now they're saying 9 named storms. They originally had 6 hurricanes in April. They're now predicting only 4 hurricanes. 2 major hurricanes in April, and now, as of a couple weeks ago, 1 major hurricane. So there is a chance that that strong El Nino is going to knock all of the storms out. We probably won't have a lot this year. However, that does fall in line with what the National Hurricane Center does say still. So even they amended those from April to July, it still falls in line with that. And over on the right, this is from yesterday, but I looked at it this morning. We've got tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days. That can be a good thing and can be a bad thing for us. Sometimes we do want to get some of that rain from those systems, but as of right now, we're not seeing anything on the horizon. And let's take a look at our hurricane frequencies. We are currently just on the other side of July 10th. Of course, today's the 14th. We've survived the first month of hurricane season, and now we're kind of on our way up. This heads up, the frequencies increase all the way till September 10th, which is a climatological peak of hurricane season. And from that point, it kind of decreases a little bit with a couple more peaks, one in October and one in November. But as of right now, we have plenty more hurricane season to go. And once again, it only takes one storm to kind of, mess us up. All right, our June 2026 summary, we had a rainfall amount of 4.7 inches. That's 30% lower than that long-term average of 6.8 inches. We did increase our deficit from the end of May from just under 18 inches to 18.7 inches at the end of June. District-wide upper Florida and aquifer levels have stayed really stable from May to June from around the 11th percentile. However, we did have a median level decrease across our monitored wells of about 0.2 of a foot. As of July 11th, the groundwater is up to 11.8. With rounding, it's the 12th percentile. And as I mentioned, El Nino conditions, they are currently present, expected to strengthen. This could be one of those super El Ninos that you probably heard about through the end of the year, and then 97% chance that's going to persist through the early spring of 2027. As I mentioned, the district is covered by either moderate drought in the north, severe drought in the center part of the district, or extreme drought in the southern part of the district. And they have removed exceptional drought. That was on there for quite a while for us, but that got removed within the past few weeks. And finally, Tropical Storm Arthur was the first named storm of 2026. It formed on June 17th, and it dissipated on the 18th, so it didn't last very long, but it was just enough so we can mark that name off of the list. Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions the board may have.
Any questions?
I just have one. Robbie, this is probably not a question for you, but just looking at the well levels, water levels at different locations in the district, is it fair to say that there's areas of the district where we are down to 5% or something of that nature opposed to 10 or 11%? When you gave that number, is that a district-wide average, or is it just, is that the considered level for the entire district?
Mr. Chair? Yeah. You're correct, yes. That's a district-wide average. I take all of the wells that we have on our report and take an average of that. So that 11% is what we have on average. Now, I would say the unconfined areas that we have down here, they're more or less the canaries in the coal mine whenever we get dry. Those will actually start to show dryness well before some of these other confined areas do. So I would say the lower ones they're spread out on here, but I'd say the majority of them will probably be in this unconfined area.
I just made that comment or that question. I had a brief conversation with a well driller this week, and they said they were starting to see some wells going dry, and they were having to put them deeper. Most of them were 2-inch wells, which I think are typically shallower wells than the 4-inch wells.
Sure. Yeah. Yes, we've had a few reports as well. I've gotten with David King about that. I do the water shortage scorecard each week, and I try to keep up with what is reported. But I have heard a bunch of that where they've had to lower the pumps and everything in the wells. I don't know if it's a matter of when they drilled the well, they didn't drill it in a dry time or something like that. I'm not sure, but it's unfortunate, but it's a part of this drought that we're having to deal with.
Thank you, Rob.
Anything else, Robbie? I was just going to make an observation, I just don't think it's right that Colorado State gets to change their predictions in the middle of the game, once they see how things are kind of lining up. I mean, that'd be like saying the team's going to win after they got the first quarter underneath them. I'm just saying.
I agree with you. It seems a little.
Okay, maybe we need to
little
have
odd,
a
but-
discussion with those guys up there.
Absolutely, yes,
When
sir.
we get a chance, Robbie. But I appreciate your report. Thank you, sir. Okay, we have a service recognition. We got some milestones here, so I'm going to invite the staff member to come up and do that.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. My name is Kelly Woolley.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, ma'am.
Human Resource Service, or Human Resources. It is my pleasure to recognize Susie Hetrick for 5 years of dedicated service. Susie returned to the district in July of 2021 to support Water Resources Office in its work to collect, monitor, manage, and report water quality and hydrologic data. Her connection to the district began much earlier when she started her natural resources career here in 1999 as an environmental specialist in the Resource Management Division. Known for her dedication to natural resources and for her love of birds, Susie brings passion and expertise to her work every day. We thank her for her commitment to the district's mission and congratulate her on this 5-year service milestone. Additionally, I noticed that the agenda actually says that Mr. Marshall has been recognized for 10 years. That's because he returned to us 10 years ago. So I'd like to recognize Leroy Marshall for 30 years of district service. Leroy joined the district in June of 1995 as a water resources engineer and has dedicated the past 30 years to advancing the district's mission. During his career, he has served as a variety of engineering and leadership roles, earning his professional engineer license, becoming a certified floodplain manager and project management professional. Leroy has led several district programs, serving chief of the Environmental Permitting Office, later as chief of the Office of Agriculture and Environmental Projects. In 2024, Leroy was promoted to director of the Resource Management Projects Division, overseeing the environmental assessments, environmental projects, environmental permitting, and water use services offices. Known for his expertise, leadership, and commitment to public service, Leroy has made a lasting impact on the district and the communities it serves. please join us in thanking him for his outstanding service and congratulating him on this remarkable 30-year milestone.
All right, I'm not Troy, you guys, so. All right, let's put Leroy. All right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Mr. Keith, can I get you to skip back just a little backward? Yes, sir. Very good. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Let me do one without this. Right. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All right. Very good. Leroy and family, I'm gonna extract you. Hold on. I gotta get Susie too. I'm gonna take the marshals. Yes. All right, Mr. Keith. Very good. All right, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Thank you, Tyler, for changing it in the back. Good cue. We didn't want Leroy to see. Thank you.
Those milestones are always good to see, especially when you got somebody that's put 30 years in with us. And Miss Susie, I know you've been here and come and gone. We appreciate all your service too. Thank you very much. I just want to say that all my interactions with everybody that I come in contact with that work with our staff on permitting and trying to work through issues that people have out there, I hear nothing but glowing praise for all of our staff. And I just want to say, for us as a board, it makes our lives really, really easy to be able to serve on this board when we have such a competent and awesome staff that we do. And we appreciate that. Hugh, we appreciate your leadership too, and all those guys. Thank you. Tom, we're going to do update on legal activities. Do you have anything for us today?
The only thing, we had one meeting or two ago, I brought up the fact that we had an issue with Mr. Hill again. He had filed contrary to the court's order, he had filed another motion seeking to challenge the district's actions with regard to his permitting on his dam. At the court's direction, or at the board's direction, we'd filed a motion to hold him in contempt. We had a hearing on that. The judge found him in contempt and gave him and continued the hearing until, I believe it's June 30th. And at that time, told him he had until that time to withdraw the offending motion. He has not done so the last time I checked, but we'll have a hearing and I'll update you in August as to how that came out.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it. All right, we're going to move into our Water Resources Division update. Dr. Brown, you're going to have the floor, and we're going to do, you're going to give us an update, and then if you don't have anything to update, we're going to do a public hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Water Resources has 3 items today. The first is just a brief update, and unless there are any questions for me, I will transition into the next item, which is item 11, the public hearing. The other item will be presented by Ms. Susie Hetrick, who will be back to present the annual water quality update after this public hearing.
Okay, so the governing board will now hold a public hearing for approval of order number 26004, which is a modified Phase 2 water shortage. Dr. Brown, will you please provide the presentation and recommendation?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as you heard from Robbie, we're still seeing low aquifer conditions, and we are seeing low levels and low flows, especially on the Santa Fe River and some of our other systems. We did get the benefit of some rain, but we're still seeing dry conditions. We're continuing basically to ask users to defer their water use and conserve water to the maximum extent possible. Plan for the potential that this rolls into the next year, to reduce landscape irrigation to the maximum extent practical, and to review and fully implement their conservation plans. So what we'd like to do is we're requesting another modified Phase 2 that would extend through the end of this year as we monitor these conditions. In terms of the components that would be in that plan, it's really the same as what we have in place right now. There's a couple things that we wanted to clarify and modify, though. The first one, which is highlighted in yellow there under miscellaneous uses, we wanted to clarify that pressure washing for maintenance, construction, and safety can continue. It's just the aesthetic pressure washing that we still want to restrict until we see higher aquifer conditions. So that would be the first proposed change from what's currently in place. The second one has to do with agriculture. There were restrictions on the timing of overhead irrigation for those less efficient, high-pressure, high-volume systems. We're still asking people to restrict the timing as much as they can, but in recognition of the high temperatures that we're seeing right now and the challenges of heat stress, we're basically asking to limit to the maximum extent possible versus having a specific time component on those two restrictions. But all the other restrictions that are currently in place would remain in place at this point in time. So the recommendation would be to approve a modified Phase 2 water shortage for all ground and surface water sources within the district boundary, including those unincorporated areas of Alachua and Levy counties within the St. John's and Southwest that we hold for. And so we're asking for an approval of water shortage advisory order number 26-004. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the board? All right, is there any, I'm going to open the floor to any public comment from any of the public that are here that would like to speak.
Still Moses Clipper. I want to reiterate that I've mentioned, I don't remember if I mentioned from this podium or not, but, my solution is basic science. I truly do believe if you maybe go to 4-H and you get some of those kids that grew up on a farm and tell them all the details of the situation we're looking at and ask them the solution. I'm going against some of the river keepers' thoughts on this, but I do believe I don't know how many springs are here, I've read somewhere, but there's a bunch of springs here, many that are not frequented by anyone, and I do believe between the spring head and the river, there could be some aesthetically pleasing dams built, and for those that might possibly have the carp or the manatees or whatever, if that was determined necessary, there could be some gates put in them to back charge with actual aquifer quality water, not the contaminated water coming from Valdosta. And also, again and again and again, developing more and more of these recharging swamps, damming up what our poor people drained. I think God intended for them daggone places to be dammed up, and I don't know why it's such a resistance, or not even a consideration. I heard that, that's another whole something or other, like that's an idea we haven't considered. Well, over the 100, and again, I go by, I'm not gonna spend my entire life getting proof in every detail. I intentionally try to share only facts, but I'll put it out there and y'all determine what's facts and not. But I heard up to 100, and then one time 800 different ideas to recharge our aquifer have been considered, and the best we come up with was that god-awful Water First North Florida. So I do believe those two ideas alone would fix us. you know, and it'd be, I mean, just pure water, rainwater being percolated down through the earth and damming up, back charging with the actual water instead of it going out to the Gulf of Mexico. You know, what's the purpose? And I know tourism and, you know, the spring lovers, I'm a spring lover. I'm a natural lover. I'm a daggum original tree hugger. So, you know, I wish y'all would consider that. I'm dumbfounded why y'all don't.
Anybody else would like to speak? Thank you very much. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing then. And any other questions or comments from the board? All right, I need a motion to approve the order 2604.
Make that motion.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the matter? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. It carries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Hetrick will now come up and present the water quality update.
Good morning again, Mr. Chair. Today, for agenda item number 12, I'll report on our 2025 water quality monitoring and data collection. I'll start with a brief overview of our monitoring network, and then we'll take a look at nitrate status and trends in the network. As the board is aware, the district's work involves 4 core focus areas: water supply, water quality, natural systems, and flood protection. In support of those focus areas, the Office of Water Resources maintains a network of water quality monitoring stations to help us identify current water quality status and long-term trends within the district. The district began collecting water quality data in the 1970s. This graph shows the number of yearly sampling events in blue and the number of monitoring stations each year in yellow. In 2025, we collected water quality samples from over 200 stations within our network with more than 900 sampling events. And this map shows the location of our 2025 water quality monitoring stations, including groundwater and surface water together. Also in this map are some features you'll note on the following slides. There are our rivers shown, the district's boundaries shown, and of interest is the Florida and aquifer confinement layer. And so the dark gray area represents areas that are known to be confined, and the stippled gray area are the areas of the Florida and aquifer that are semi-confined, and then the light gray areas are areas where the aquifer is unconfined. This map is the same map, but it distinguishes the stations by station type. So in 2025, we monitored 79 groundwater stations. Those are shown with the blue triangles here. We monitored 81 surface water monitoring stations, and that included streams, which are creeks and rivers, and also lakes. And then we also monitored 79 spring stations. Those are shown with the little light green bullseyes. 11 of our priority springs also are outfitted with continuous water quality monitoring equipment. And so those are shown with the large pink dots. At each of our monitoring stations, we measure physical conditions, including water temperature and depth. And at the non-continuous stations, we collect discrete samples, what we call grab samples, which are analyzed for several chemical components, including nutrients such as nitrate. And today, we'll take a look at our nitrate status and trends at our groundwater, streams, and springs stations we monitored in 2025. But before we do, I want to go over some background information. Since we're focusing on nitrate data, there's some specific water quality standards for nitrates which are helpful to know, and I typically emphasize these on the maps with symbols. There are bookends. The high bookend is the National Primary Drinking Water Standard for nitrate, which is 10 milligrams per liter. And then on the opposite end, the low bookend, are the DEP nutrient criteria or nutrient targets for nitrate for our springs and certain rivers or certain spans of stretches of our rivers. And for all of our springs in the Santa Fe and Suwannee systems, the target is 0.35 milligrams per liter. And then there are stretches of those rivers, which you'll see on maps coming, that that is also the target, 0.35 milligrams per liter. For the Wassissa, the river itself, target is 0.2 milligrams per liter of nitrate, and then the Wassissa Springs Group target is 0.24 milligrams per liter. So those are sort of the bookends that we typically show you the nitrate data between. This is related to the targets. This is a map of our BMAP areas within the district. The Department of Environmental Protection establishes basin management action plans for these three river systems, and they are designed to help meet the TMDL targets for these systems. And so the planning areas for the Suwannee system and the Wassissa and the Santa Fe system are shown on this map, and you'll see that on later maps as well. So with this information, we'll look at the nitrate data that we ended the 2025 year with. This is a map showing the status and trends of our nitrate concentrations at each of our groundwater monitoring stations at the end of 2025. The blue-colored symbols on this map represent stations where the nitrate concentrations are below 0.35 milligrams per liter. The green, yellow, and orange symbols represent stations where nitrate levels are between 0.35 milligrams and 10 milligrams per liter. And then the red symbols show stations where nitrates are above 10 milligrams per liter. It's probably intuitive to you, but I'll explain it. The up and down arrows on the map show where trends are either increasing or decreasing at a particular station. And if a station is represented by a square, it's neither showing an increasing or a decreasing trend at this time. So that's groundwater. These are our stream surface water stations at the end of 2025. An additional feature to note on this map is, I think you can see it, these highlighted areas of the river reaches, the Santa Fe below the Rise, the Suwannee below the Withlacoochee, and over here on the west side of the district, the Wassissa. Those river reaches are the ones that I spoke of earlier where DEP has established nutrient criteria for those springs. And it's just good to have sort of understand what those are. For the Suwannee and Santa Fe reaches that are highlighted on the map, the nutrient criteria is 0.35 milligrams per liter. And for the Wassissa, it's 0.2 milligrams per liter for the river itself. Okay. So in 2025, the stream stations, we had 3 that were showing a decreasing trend in nitrates. That's the Steinhatchee River at the mouth, Alligator Creek near Stark, and Finn Holloway River at Fish Camp. And then we had 1 station, the Waukesassa at Gulf Hammock, showing an increasing trend at the end of 2025. This map shows our springs status and trends at the end of 2025. We had 2 springs monitoring stations showing a decreasing trend in nitrate levels. That's Ruth Spring and Branford Spring. And we had 14 of our spring stations showing an increasing trend in nitrate levels. To summarize, we sampled 79 groundwater stations in 2025. 2 of those were exceeding the 10 milligram per liter nitrate concentration. We sampled 66 stream stations in 2025. 17 of those stations within spring-dominated areas were exceeding their 0.35 milligrams per liter nitrate criteria. And we sampled 79 spring stations. 18 of those were below the 0.35 milligrams per liter, and 1 of those is exceeding 10 milligrams per liter. All of the data from the samples we collect can be found on the district's website at mysuwanneeriver.com by clicking on the Science and Data tab at the top. See right up here, circled in yellow. And within that page, you will see another link for the Water Quality Data Portal here. If you follow that link, it'll take you to our interactive water quality map. You can toggle on and off surface water stations and groundwater stations, and you can access data for each station by either activating one of the water droplets where the station is located, or on the right-hand menu, there are names of the stations. And when you do that, a pop-up window will appear that gives you links to the data that are collected for that station. As I mentioned earlier, some of our springs, we collect both continuous and grab sample data. Those are kept separately. And so by hitting either link, you can access a spreadsheet with the whole period of record of water quality data for that station. Before I stop, I want to be sure and thank somebody who really helped me a lot put this together this year. It's Robbie McKinney. He put in a lot of hard work to provide the statistical analysis for this update to you. So I wanted to thank Robbie. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll take any questions.
Any questions, Ms. Susie?
I just got one. Susie, of the springs, of those that are above the 10 milligram, which are our couple of hotspot areas, are we seeing an upward trend? I mean, is it continuing to rise, or is there some hope that maybe they're going the opposite way?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
So from this map, we're showing that the trends are relatively stable. They're not either increasing or decreasing. They are high, but they've been higher in the past, and now there's, at least for this particular one, it's stabilized. Now, we do have some springs that show up from time to time above 10, and then in the next year, they'll show up below 10, and that has to do with other dynamics that are happening. But for the most part, at least Convict, which is this one, is stable.
Sure. Do the drought periods affect these trends?
Chair? Yes, they do, in a couple of different ways. So during some parts of the drought, when we're getting more groundwater from the springs, then sometimes we can see a higher trend in nitrate levels. But then another thing also happens during droughts. Sometimes the springs are flooded by river flood events, and then that will sometimes cause decreases in nitrate levels that we see.
Yeah, it would just seem during the drought you'd have less runoff waters.
Ms. Susie, I was just curious, to compile the data that you're getting, this isn't just a one-time sampling event. How often do you sample these wells or these monitoring stations? Is that like once a quarter? Is it, how does that work?
It depends on the station. I brought some bonus slides for that. I didn't actually think, I said, I'm going to take these out. Nobody ever asked this. But so here they are. This is our groundwater monitoring station frequency. So some of them are monitored quarterly and some of them are monitored twice a year. And it's been different over time. Some of these have quite long periods of record. And in the past, we've monitored some of them monthly. And then we've gone periods of time where we didn't monitor them at all. So it really is different from station to station. But similarly with surface water monitoring stations, most of them are quarterly. We have some that are once a year and some that are twice a year. And with our springs, same thing. Most of them are quarterly. We aim for quarterly on the ones that we're really trying to get a handle on. And then the other ones, if we want to just kind of keep a period of record maintained for that water body, then we'll pull back on how frequently we monitor them.
And so with the trends that Mr. Keith was asking, we know that we're in like a phase 2 drought. We've been there for 3 months or 6 months, whatever, how we're doing that. Let's say we did have a heavy rain event and it just so happens that it's the time of the quarter to be able to take the sample. Do y'all take that into account, or do you try to go before and after a flood event, maybe sample twice instead of just once, or how does that work? Because sometimes that might get your numbers a little bit wanky, right, or no?
Correct. It does depend. We don't actually try to dodge the rain or not dodge it. We try to return to that system on essentially
Specific
the
date.
same time
Yeah.
that we did last year, the same
Okay.
quarters, the same months within each quarter. Every now and then, flooding absolutely affects whether we can collect a good sample, and so we may not. And then also, every now and then, we decide to target an area for more intense sampling, say during drought, to understand what's happening during the drought. We did that this summer with a couple of stations on the Santa Fe. And so it depends on what we're sort of trying to see, but typically when you look at a long-term period of record, you can see in the nitrate data when you have a flood event. And so, because a lot of times, especially in a system where the nitrates are high, if the spring is being overtopped, and if we're talking about springs, if the spring is being overtopped by the river water, you'll see the nitrates drop really low, and you can look at that. And then you can also look at other water quality data from that grab, conductivity, pH, something like that, and it'll tell the story. So we let the data kind of tell us the story. We don't really try to avoid one or the other, although we might sometimes try to target a specific time if we're looking for specific information.
And I guess another question I got for you is in a lot of these areas, especially in the higher nitrate areas, we have spent a lot of money on cost share with some of our ag producers and even some of our municipalities, trying to help them get their sewer systems up and everything else. Is there a record? I know that you showed where you had some data from 1975 and maybe a little bit later than that. Is there a way that we can track to see if we're actually making a gain, or if that money that we're spending is actually making a difference? Is there a way to be able to give us some proof? Because I've sat on this board a long time, and we've approved a lot of money through cost share, and producers have spent a lot of money trying to get these nitrate levels in a correction, if you would. Are we seeing that? Are we able to track that? Are we able to get us some statistical data that we can say, hey, you know, this is worth the investment?
Given the magnitude of a lot of the nitrate contributions to some of these, it's difficult to see the results of individual projects at the spring vent. We definitely do track the springs nitrate data over time, and we can certainly line that up with a date that a particular project came into effect. But for the most part, because these are such large basins and because the inputs are fairly broad, it's difficult to say that one particular project has flattened the curve on a particular spring. Although we do sometimes see springs that are improving over time ever so slowly, and so which project made that improvement happen is difficult to know.
Well, I think it would be good if we are seeing improvement over time. I think that with the data that we have with dye tracing and other things, we know basically where that pool of land or water resources going into that one spring shed. If we're seeing that would be really helpful. Okay, this is where we were. And I don't care if it's 20 years ago, right? This is where we were 20 years ago. This is where we are today. You know, we all know that we've had exponential growth. With that growth, you have more nitrate, because with more humans, you have more waste and runoff and everything else that we have. So I think if we can collect that data and show that data, I think that would really help us be able to tell a better story than what we're doing. Because I don't want to guess of what we're doing. And then also on the trend line stuff, if there's more work that we need to get done, that's where we go and pursue the people that hold the purse strings to be able to release some more money if that's what we need. Because we really want to make a difference in the right trending way for the betterment of everybody. So I think that'd be good to you. That might be something that we need to look at, or maybe do some workshops on, or whatever. But we appreciate all the information that you're giving us and what you're doing. Any other questions for Ms. Susie? Thank you very much. Okay, that's going to include our water resource, and now we're going to do the BC Business and Community Services. Mr. Alexander?
Chair Schwab, Governing Board members, those in attendance, good morning. Mr. Chair, if I could, I'd like to start by just, again, thanking Leroy for his hard work, his dedication. Definitely, Leroy, for all the support and help you give me, and to recognize his family and to say thank you for loaning him to us. Before we move on to our agenda items, I am excited to introduce a new member of our team, Mr. Chris Denmark. And when Ben left, I'd say we were very blessed to be able to hire Chris to come on board to oversee our Office of Administration and to lead our ag team. So, tell you a little bit about Chris. Prior to working for the district, Chris was employed since 2021 with the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. in the Office of Ag Water Policy as an environmental administrator covering North and Central Florida. His duties there covered field service supervision, cost share administration, and fleet management. Previously, Chris worked with FDAC's Division of Marketing for 14 years, and he worked in irrigation, seed, and fertilized sales in Florida and Alabama beginning in 1996, as well as working with the University of Georgia Dairy Research Farm as a student worker and joining all phases of dairy production. Chris earned a bachelor's degree in agricultural operation management from the University of Florida in 1996, a bachelor's degree in agriculture economics from the University of Georgia in 1991, and an associate's degree from ABAC in 1987. Chris enjoys traveling to new places, trying new foods, and being outdoors. And I just want to say I'm excited to have Chris on our team, and I look forward to seeing the contributions he makes in helping us be successful at our mission here at the district. So, Chris, welcome.
Chris, I just want to remind you, if you want to keep up with Leroy, you got till 2056 to get 30 years in, okay? So just, you might want to start taking your vitamins right now. But welcome aboard.
So this morning, Mr. Chair, for Business Community Services, we have items number 13 through 22 on this morning's agenda. Items number 13 through 15, those were ag cost share items that were approved by way of consent, along with item number 16, 20, and 22. So thank you for the approval of those items. Item number 17, the FY 2026 and 27 tentative millage and budget will be presented by the district's finance program manager, Ms. Christine Thompson. And Ms. Thompson also has a employee introduction as well. And then items number 18, 19, and 21, those are informational items, but our Division of Resource Management Director, Mr. Leroy Marshall, will come forward with an update, and I believe he has 2 new employees to introduce. So,
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Before I get started, I'd first like to take the opportunity to introduce the newest member of the finance team. We have Miss Gina York. She holds a bachelor's degree in business administration from the University of North Florida in Jacksonville. And prior to working with the district, she had a varied career, including working in application development for CSX Transportation and as both an internal and external auditor for various government agencies with Carr, Riggs, and Ingram CPAs. When not working, she enjoys creating things through woodworking and sewing projects, and her favorite place to relax is floating down the river in the kayak, enjoying the beauty the world has to offer. And we are very excited to welcome her to our team. All right. And as far as the agenda is concerned, you have before you agenda item number 17 on BCS page 22, the fiscal year 2026 to 2027 tentative millage and budget. And according to Chapter 373 Florida statute, we are required to submit for your consideration a tentative budget covering proposed operation requirements for the ensuing year on or before July 15th. As you may recall, we conducted a tentative budget workshop following last month's board meeting. There's been no overall change in the budget since that time. The 27 budget is $70,411,214. And staff recommends the governing board to authorize the executive director to set the tentative millage at the rollback rate, is currently 0.2695 mils. Grant staff authority to adjust the rollback rate if final data changes. Approve the fiscal year 26-27 tentative budget of $70,411,214. Authorize staff to make recommended adjustments and corrections. Authorize staff to submit the standard format tentative budget pursuant to Chapter 373 of statutes, and authorize staff to notify the property appraiser of the district's 15 counties that the district proposes to levy a rolled back millage rate.
Any questions for Christine? Entertain a motion.
So move.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the matter? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign? Passes.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Good to see you again. I do want to say thank you to everyone for the support 30 years. I was 23 when I came and started here, so it's been a while. Didn't have all this gray, but I got it now. I do want to introduce two people, two new staff members we have here at the district. Our first one is Alexis Vitti. Alexis graduated from the University of Florida in May of 2025, where she majored in agricultural and natural resource management and minored in geography. Alexis came to us from Alachua County Public Works Office, where she worked as an engineering technician over floodplain management. Alexis will be working in our Office of Water Use Services, assisting with water use and water well permitting. Alexis enjoys spending time with family and her two dogs, and her hobbies include baking bread, reading, and photography. Welcome, Alexis. Our other individual is Aaron Luther. Aaron graduated from the University of Florida in May of 2026, where he majored in biological engineering. Aaron has been a familiar face here at the district as he was hired as an intern in the Office of Environmental Permitting in December of 2025. Prior to interning here, he worked at Pascal's Coffee House at the Christian Study Center in Gainesville. Aaron will be working with the Office of Environmental Permitting, assisting with ERP and WOD permitting. Aaron enjoys coaching soccer, teaching guitar, and making a good cup of coffee. So thank you, Aaron, for coming with us. This morning, I wanted to update the board for two updates. The first being our FEMA CTP program. As we informed the board last month, the notice of funding opportunity opened at the end of June. CTPs will have until the end of September to apply and get everything signed and executed before the end of September of this year. The notice of funding opportunity, we have been directed that we are not to do any new work with this NOFO, but we will focus on completing all of the existing work that we have under the risk map program. The reason for that is we've been informed that FEMA is going to switch to the risk map program to what's called Future of Flood Risk Data Initiative. They call it the FFRD. And the FFRD, the initiative, provides a more comprehensive picture of the country's flood hazards and risks by leveraging new technologies to include a more efficient, accurate, and consistent flood risk information across the nation. Data produced will include watershed-wide probabilistic estimates of flood hazard and quantify the uncertainty associated with those estimates. So that's the direction we will be going after we finish up all of our risk map programs, projects that we have going on. The other update in our FEMA world is the Upper and Lower Suwannee Flood Risk Review. We have mailed out all the letters to the 8 counties that will be impacted by the Upper and Lower Suwannee maps that we are preparing. The letters went out to the counties, to the emergency management officers and the county managers, informing them that the counties will be responsible for hosting the FFR public meetings. We expect to have these meetings in the September, October timeframe. The district will be providing the counties with outreach information and any documentation and support that we can as they go through those FRRs in that time. So we will be working to get those flood risk reviews done, again, in the September, October range. And then after that, we will be going back to the Santa Fe to wrap up the revisions we had there from a couple of years ago. I wanted to take some time and talk True Leave. Since the last board meeting, district staff has been working with our district attorney and the attorneys at True Leave, working through the compliance agreement. We are working to assess the penalties for the violations. We're working through all of that with their attorneys. The True Leave has applied to modify their permit that we discussed. The permit application is under review right now. Actually, it's on RAI, which means we've done our first initial review. We've asked a bunch of questions. That's what the request for additional information. And we are now waiting on True Leave's engineers to respond to our request for additional information. Ms. Lamb was here last month, and she mentioned a wetland that was in for their site, northwest corner of the property. We had one of our environmental specialists go out and do an assessment of that wetland and to see if the project is having an impact on that wetland. I expect to get that report back here pretty soon, and then we will incorporate any findings that he has in the review of the application that we have. Also want to remind the board that the application is to decouple the operating or the wastewater system from the stormwater system, which will mean that the permit we have in-house will only cover the stormwater part, and the wastewater part of the operations water will not be covered under our permit. That will be the responsibility of DEP when our permit goes through decoupling those systems. And so that's the update I have for True Leave. Do you guys have any questions with that?
I just have one. Yeah. Is the problem that the landowner's experiencing, is it coming from the stormwater pond, or is it coming from the wastewater pond, or both?
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
sir. I think some of it is coming from both. As we discussed, the systems were connected at one point, and so there was, I think, a little bit of both being discharged off-site. The intent here with this application is to separate those systems so that DEP can have the jurisdiction over the wastewater and water, and they can make the decisions over those systems, and then we can focus on the stormwater part of it. And the expectation is that, again, when it's dry, and it should not be discharging.
Well, that was my question. Apparently, it's continually discharging. So where is the issue there that it's not going dry?
Mr. Chair? I am not sure. I will have to go back out and look again as to why it's continuously discharging. The couple of times I've been, I have seen it dry. I have seen it discharging once or twice, but the couple of times I've been, it's been dry. So there may be an issue with the operating system or the wastewater system. Ms. Lamb mentioned the sprinklers. That would not be part of the stormwater system, the sprinklers for the wastewater part. So we would just have to go out and take a look.
Ms. Lamb, did you have anything
to add?
I'm sorry.
If you look in the portal, you will see that some of the pumping events were before the inspection, where Mr. Marshall saw it was dry.
Said there was a pump down.
Yes, sir.
Leroy, is it my understanding that the application or the modification included some modification to the holding pond itself? The percolation or whatever, because I know there was quite a bit of construction that was done out there sometime recently. Was that not correct?
Mr. Chair. So the modification, the application for the modification included, again, the decoupling of the systems, and they are also doing some work to the under drains. If the board will remember, we discussed at the last meeting about how the system was a detention pond and how all the storm water, when it comes into the pond, it's discharged and it goes through those under drains or those side filters. They are doing some work to replace all of those side drains. I think they're actually making them a little bit longer in order to make sure that those ponds, discharge that water and get it on out so that it can go dry.
Any more questions for Leroy? Yes, sir.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll make it discharge better, but how does that help with the erosion and stuff? I mean, controlled discharge is what you're usually after on erosion.
Right, so the discharge, hopefully, what it will do is stop that discharge, well, not hopefully, what it will be designed to do is to discharge for 3 to 4 days after a rain event and then stop. And so the continuous discharge that Ms. Lamb and the Lambs are experiencing should not be happening if the pond is functioning as designed. So part of the application process that we have will be making sure the calculations and the design itself is correct. And then once that is done, we will be checking to make sure the construction is done correctly and then that the system is operating as designed. But the design is such that you will not have continuous discharge for days and days and days, which is contributing to, according to the Lambs, is contributing to the erosion that is happening.
Any other questions for Leroy? Leroy, what's the anticipation timeframe to get kind of this? I mean, I know it's, Tom, don't take offense to this, but I know it's in the lawyer's hands and they're going back and forth. It may take a little bit longer, but I mean, can we get some resolution to this pretty quick like?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. In my conversations with the engineers, we're expecting the response back from the application here pretty soon. Once we get that response back, we will do our due diligence of getting the review done. Once that is done and we've issued the permit, and then we can get with the attorneys to get the compliance agreement all wrapped up and stuff. I hate to throw out numbers when it comes to permit review, but my expectation is that here shortly we can get the permit issued and get the compliance wrapped up and then be in a monitoring type phase.
Thank you.
Chairman, do we have any idea what the actual violations are? Are we documenting the violations from the actual time that the violations were perceived by the joining landowner of the permit?
Mr. Chair. So we, in the compliance agreement, we're working on 5 issues. Those 5 issues have, we're following the directive that the board has set for us for penalties that are being assessed. Each one of those has a initial penalty, and then it has a per-day penalty that has been going on. And so we, the initial penalty comes across as either a violation of the rule and an impact to the resource. So there is a chart that we use that helps us find that initial penalty, and then the per day penalty that we're assessing right now is starting from the call that we got from the Lambs. I believe it was in 2025, September, I think, of 2025. So the per day penalties start from around that time and go until we've started the resolution of the compliance.
Chair. Question I have is, we're talking about penalties and all these things, but is there any plans, or will there be plans for the remediation of the neighbor's property by True Leaf?
The district typically does not include that in the compliance agreements, in the compliance portion of our compliance process. What we will be working on is getting the system into compliance and making sure that it works according to the design.
So what's the recourse of the neighbors if their property's been damaged by erosion?
Mr. Chair, that would be a civil.
Okay. All right.
Anything else? Thank you, Leroy. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Caitlin.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. The Division of Outreach Operations today has several items for you, 3 of which are informational. Those are items number 23, 24, and 27. I will be presenting items number 25 and 26 for you today, and then I'll have an announcement at the end. The first item is item number 25 on OPS, page 9. This is the approval of Resolution 2026-07 for the partnership acquisition of a perpetual conservation easement from the Green family in Columbia County, consisting of approximately 426 acres for an amount not to exceed $3,200 per acre for up to 50% of the surveyed acreage. And as a reminder, the map of the easement property is on the screen here. Thank you, Tyler. And just to remind the board, back last October in 2025, the board approved a ranking of acquisition projects, several of those which were partnership projects. And you approved for us not to go out and purchase them, but you approved for us to begin negotiations. And after those negotiations continue, and if they're successful, then we bring these individual transactions to you. This is one of those transactions. So you originally saw this, like I said, back in October of 2025. You ranked it, and it was ranked number 3. We've been working down our list, and we have completed negotiations with the landowner. But as I mentioned, this is a partnership project, so we also have been working with Alachua Conservation Trust and the USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service, who is funding the other 50% of the easement. The district will hold other interests and rights therein on the property, specifically enforcement rights, and will not hold co-title. The district, ACT, NRCS, and the sellers have negotiated and agreed to the terms of the easement. The easement prohibits future development of any kind, including limits on commercial and agricultural wells, pivot irrigation, and other structures. No activities can occur that are harmful to the surface or water resources, which you can see there's significant surface waters on this site. The district maintains right to enter the property as needed, and ACT will conduct the compliance monitoring with the easement in perpetuity. The sellers are permitted to continue hunting, fishing, passive recreation, and livestock grazing on the property. The red hatched area that you see is an exclusion area where there is currently a structure, and they've requested additional building envelope, and so it was easier as part of the easement just to carve that out. So the red hatching you see is not part of the actual easement property and subject to final surveyed acreage. Upon approval of the resolution, the governing board authorizes the executive director to complete the transaction based on the established terms and offers. Further, a baseline report and legal survey sketch will be completed prior to closing. The final purchase price is subject to the surveyed acreage and may increase or decrease slightly from 426 acres provided by GIS. The sale is also subject to clear title. With that, staff recommend the approval of Resolution 2026-07 for the partnership acquisition of a perpetual conservation easement from the Green family in Columbia County consisting of 426 acres, again, based on the final surveyed acreage, for an amount not to exceed $3,200 per acre up to 50% of the surveyed acreage. So in short, paying half of the cost. And with that, I will take any questions.
Yes, sir.
Caitlin, do we have any information on how the partners negotiations going?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I actually got a call yesterday and an email yesterday from ACT and from the landowner where it appears there is a delay at the federal level on we expected to close this summer, but it appears that it may close a little later, not by any of the hands of the local partners, but for some of additional review needed at the federal level. But outside of that, my understanding is things are moving along.
We have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right.
Second it.
I got a second. Any more discussion on the matter? All in favor? Opposed, like sign? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. The next item I have for you is on OPS page 14. This is the approval of an additional $40,000 to attain a boundary survey for the Hodges Family Conservation Easement in Levy County for a due diligence total amount not to exceed $70,000. Again, back in October, the board approved us to pursue due diligence on a number of properties, and the Hodges family property was one of those properties. If you review your land acquisition and surplus memo, that's, or if you're, just for your awareness, it's in your board packet every month, that Hodges easement has been listed on there with status updates on where we are. Back in February, you approved Resolution 2026-01 for the actual acquisition of the conservation easement of the property for 734 acres in Levy County. As part of that resolution, an amount of $30,000 was approved for final due diligence and closing costs. These funds pay for the survey of an exclusion area, environmental site assessment, baseline documentation report, and legal fees. All of those things have been completed. Since the board's approval of that resolution, the underwriter has requested a full boundary survey of the easement area due to chain of title clarification. The Hodges family is required to pay half of the survey costs, which will be reimbursed to the district at closing. This additional $40,000 brings the total due diligence cost to $70,000 for surveys, assessment, and legal fees. Staff requests the board approve the additional $40,000 to obtain the survey and complete due diligence required for closing on the conservation easement for the Hodges family. After the survey is completed, the district will move to closing.
Sure.
Yes,
Is the reimbursement by the Hodges family at closing, is that reimbursement on half of the 70,000 or is it half of the 40,000?
Mr. Chair, half of the 40.
Any other questions? I have a motion?
Make that motion.
I got a motion, a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board. And just as an announcement, the district received back in May, we had our application period for land acquisition and land acquisition projects, very similar to how we received the ones that y'all reviewed and approved today in part. And so we will be bringing a recommended ranking for those projects to you, if all goes as planned, at an August Lands Committee meeting. After that, we'll go out, conduct site visits if we haven't already done so, if it's been a previously applied project. And then in October, bring to you a recommendation to the full board for the rankings. And so we'll be putting that packet together very similarly to what we did last year and looking at opportunities to advance conservation in the district.
With that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Caitlin?
And Mr. Schwab, last year you requested to send those documents to y'all as early as possible so you could have time to review them, and we will do the same thing again this year.
Thank you very much, Caitlin. Appreciate it. Mr. Thomas, last but not least.
Well, good morning, Mr. Chair and Board, and Mr. Richard, appreciate you stepping in to fill in as chair today. Ms. Johns was not feeling well this morning. Do want to express, similar to Tim and others, I do want to express my appreciation to both Leroy and Susie for their dedication here to the district. I've had a number of years, even prior to being director, and working with Leroy, and he is a great person to work with. I think many of you have experienced his capabilities in working with the public and resolving issues, and he continues to do that. And I appreciate both him and his families for letting him serve with the district on there. Susie, on the other hand, I'm not sure about. I will share with you. Susie does a phenomenal job for the district. She is actually, whether she is on vacation or not, she has always made herself available to answer questions. And I remember the first encounter that I had with Susie, she was actually working in the with Alachua County at that time. And I was with the Department of Ag, and we didn't quite see eye to eye on things at that point. But we worked through it nonetheless, and Susie has always done a phenomenal job in working with the public and providing information, and certainly working with the requests that I and other staff members here have relative to water quality and our sampling efforts with that. So I do express my appreciation to both of them with that. I also express my appreciation to the board for accepting the evaluation committee's recommendation on the consent agenda item, and appreciate my opportunity to continue serving here at the district with that. Many of you have made comments about my vacation last week, and I appreciate that. Appreciate the time off. As I've told some, it was the first full family vacation that we've had in about 5 or 6 years. It may be another 5 or 6 years before we do that. I'm not sure. But no, I highly encourage that, and I highly encourage staff doing that as well. It's a great chance to catch up and just spend some time, relaxing time with the family. So I appreciate the opportunity to do that. You've heard about our drought. I know many of you, all of you probably have hoped that by now it would be over with, but we're not there yet. So thank you for remaining in a modified phase 2 with this going forward. I do hope and pray that we continue to receive the rains. I think we've got more on the way here in the next couple of days, the way it's looking, and slowly but surely we'll chip away at the drought that we have got. There was some mention about particularly residential wells being impacted. I can personally speak to that on behalf of my daughter. And it has happened in the past, very well may happen again. A lot of the residential wells are installed to a more shallow level. And so when our water table does drop, the water leaves those pumps high and dry with that. And so if you need to put a well in, right now is the time to do it because you may well have water in the future in that case. The last thing that I'll mention, Mr. Chair, is that we are working on putting together a tour for our board. This would not coincide with a regular, or it's not anticipated that it would coincide with a regular governing board meeting. It would probably be an alternate day of the month, similar to what we did when our governing board took the tour of the Clay County Utility Authority. We are looking at doing a tour of the H2.0 facility. I know Mr. Thompson accompanied myself and Amy over for a tour of that facility earlier this year. I think it'd be highly educational for the board to see what capabilities there are relative to water treatment going forward, because we are going to need to develop some projects here in our district relative to resolving our water supply issues. So probably looking at sometime in September or October. I haven't confirmed that with Robin yet, gotten her blessing on it, but we'll keep y'all informed as to what we're looking at and what dates would be available for that as well. And with that, Mr. Chair, that's my report.
Any other governing board concerns for Hugh today?
I think it probably ties in with board comments, but since we're done, we'll go ahead, because I think what I'm going to ask, probably Tim has better knowledge of. But first, I just want to say I'm very encouraged with the new hires. That's wonderful, well needed. But my question is, at this point, when we're right at budget and stuff like that, staff compensation and staff retention. We've got to be able to keep our staff. We get them trained up, get them going. So I guess my question is for Tim. I know we did some evaluations on staff compensation throughout the state and things like that. I want to know how we stand in that. Are we competitive? Do we need to make some changes? Did the state allow for stuff this year? Do we need to take some board action on some things? Can you elaborate?
Yeah, Mr. Chair. So with that, you are correct. We did have an analysis done a while back. We've looked at it. I'll say some areas within the district, we were right at where we needed to be. Very few areas were we over. There were several areas of concern. We have taken a close look at that. We've come up with a plan to begin an implementation to bring some of those salaries up. As early as we'll start working on some of those memos this week. So I think you're dead on that you know, and that analysis didn't just look at other state agencies. It looked at some of the county government and some private sector. So if we're going to maintain well-qualified staff to be able to meet the mission that's set for us, we're going to have to be able to compensate them and retain them. So, but I think the short answer to your question is yes, we do have a plan to begin moving forward to try to equalize that pay scale. So.
Good. And then also, I don't think the executive director is included in state stuff very often. So if you would keep us abreast of where we're at on that.
I will be happy to. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, if I could
Yes,
add
sir. Go ahead.
comment to it. And thank you, Mr. Charles. I appreciate the board's support, not only to help recruit qualified staff, but also to retain our qualified staff that are here. We do appreciate the support for that. We did see with the market analysis, as Tim spoke to, that we do need to make some adjustments. We are able to do those within our current budget for that, and so we will be moving forward, as he said.
Good to see them around when they're gray like Leroy and me. Get a stool when you come make your presentation.
Any other board concerns or comments? Hugh, I still would like to entertain and invite the board to come to Taylor County and have a board meeting.
Yes, sir.
Off-site. I know that we, in Taylor County, celebrate the Forest Festival in the month of October. And so it might be part of that celebration and who we are as a county to host the Water Management District on the month of October, if it's all possible.
Sure.
Just talk through that with Ms. Robin. Yep.
2 thumbs up, not
Yep.
just one.
Okay. But we got a lot going on over there, a lot of opportunity. And we'd love to host everybody in Taylor County. Even though folks from Dixie County, we'll invite y'all up to come up. So
Is Roy Deals gonna serve the food?
we'll figure it out. We may have Schwab's Catering or something like that right there for everybody. Yeah.
Hot dogs.
Yep. Yep. Depends on how good a month we're having. We might, whatever. Any other board concerns or for the good of the order?
I think it's been said a few times, but I just want to personally thank Leroy for his service to the district. I will say that I've never had a problem since I've been on this board that Leroy didn't find a solution for.
Yes, sir.
It's not a matter of not complying with an issue, it's finding a way to do it.
Yep.
And I appreciate that kind of tact when we're dealing with the public.
Yes, sir.
It makes our jobs a lot easier.
100%. Any other comments? Well, just to remind everybody, we have a meeting on August the 11th at 9 a.m. here. There'll be some workshop and committee meetings as well as with our board meeting. With that being said, no other comments. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn our meeting.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor can dismiss themselves. Thank you very much. And that does conclude all of our meetings today. Board, y'all can take.